Welcome back to Beauty for Ashes. This is episode 7, where we will be talking about the waiting. Our precious waiting for God to move. So I know a little bit about waiting because I'm telling you, when I pray, I feel like it should happen like instant, like right then and there, okay? Although in the Bible, people have been waiting years to conceive, years for marriage, or if they're a widow, it's been sometimes years to the promised land. And here I go thinking, if I pray it tonight, it needs to happen tomorrow morning. I need to see the results of this prayer. And first off, it's a little convoluted because that's me worrying about my time and putting God on my time, although He is the author of time. Don't worry, I'm learning. Because one thing God is going to help you to understand is patience. One thing God is going to do is help you to wait, okay? He's going to show His glory in the wait. And that's when you build who you are, is in the waiting season. And I feel as though if we get things too quickly or too fast, we don't appreciate them. We're ready for the next thing. And we see that with small things. What if we're like, hey, God, I need a parking spot at the mall. You know, I need a parking spot. He gives you a parking spot. And you get it and you go on about your day. You probably haven't even said thank you God for the parking spot or anything. And we get it, we move on to the next thing. Oh God, I need this. I need the lines to be short. I need this, I need that. And don't get me wrong. We serve a God who loves blessing us, although we do not deserve it. So that's no problem. But we're always on to the next thing. But there's something about the waiting that truly helps you to appreciate what God gives you. And usually this comes in the form of, most people are waiting on marriage or, spouses. They're waiting on conceiving children. They're waiting on a career opportunity. They're waiting on, an explosion into what they've been creating. Everyone is waiting on something, right? And in that season, my mom always tells me, she said, people aren't waiting right. And I'm like, what does that mean? We're waiting, literally like just standing there waiting on what we're asking God for. But in the waiting, we should be equipping ourselves for what we are asking for. We should be preparing ourselves, right? If we're waiting for marriage, and I'm not sitting here acting like I'm just outside of this conversation. No, I'm dead in the middle. And when we're waiting on these things, we need to be equipping ourselves. We say we want marriage, and when we get in the marriage, a year in, I can't do it. I'm tired. This is too much. He don't listen. She don't listen. This is that and another. And it goes back to the waiting. You pray for this, you got it, and then now you're telling God, take it back, take it back, take it back right now. And it's such a funny thing because we weren't preparing in the waiting. We wanted it, we waited, and we got it, and then we mismanaged it. And that's what God doesn't want us to do. So that's why sometimes He will wait. And also He waits to see how we're going to react, how we're going to respond. I love the story of Job, okay? There was a period of time where Job had to wait to hear what God had to say. He kept crying out. He he was bowing down. He was like, what did I do wrong? God would not answer because he was in a waiting period. And God does not owe us instant gratification. No, He's the God of gods. Time is Him. He is time. When we think about it, it's Him. So in these waiting periods, I know that sometimes they might get a little lonely. You might not know where you're going. You might not know what to do next. And it might be a long time. I've heard of stories, and actually people have talked about how they've waited to conceive and how long it's taken them to conceive. And how, that's a huge blessing because only God can give life. But they waited years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to have children. And when you're talking about that type of waiting, we are not used to that. We live in a microwave society that tells us, hey, if I want something, I can just go get it. If I need something, I can just order it off Amazon. I can go through drive up, pick up for Target and get what I need. So we live in that society, so we think that God operates like that, and God does not operate like that. God operates on His timing. This is how I put it when we talk about how God moves. God is a macro God. He's an economy God, right? So He's the God that all things work together for the good. So he's like a system, and this system includes everyone in the world. So timing is not just what you have. Timing is not just about your life. It's about other people's life that needs to come in contact with you so that you can get to what you need, right? That's why everything is on God's timing, because how it works is this. What if the job that God has for you, that you've had for 7 years, is how you meet a best friend, and that best friend is how you meet someone else that can help you in business, and then that person who's helped you in business, you go to a dinner with them, and then that's how you meet someone else who helps you to meet your husband. These are the things that God are orchestrating in the background that you do not know that exist, because all we are thinking about is little old us. And God is thinking about his entire workforce, okay? He's thinking about everyone. He's thinking about everyone's lives aligning at that time and how that looks. And in that waiting period, again, we need to be equipping ourselves for what we are asking. If you're asking for a business, or you're asking for an explosion in your business, we need to be prepping on professionalism. We need to be prepping ourselves on getting out things in a timely manner. We need to be equipping ourselves on emails and things like that, marketing, finances, etc. Everything that's going to help you to be successful in that business. Bringing in people that could help you to streamline, whatever the case might be. If you're looking to conceive, or you're looking for marriage, or you're looking to fulfill your purpose, whatever the case might be, we need to be preparing in the waiting period, not just standing. Now, God does say, stand still and know that I am God. And that does mean that. That means even in the waiting, know that he is God. But that does not mean that you just have to sit there and be like, well, any day now. Faith without works is dead. Nothing comes out of that. So if we are believing in God for something supernatural and something that we're waiting on, we have to wait in joy. I'm telling you, and it's not easy. I sit here and I'm rolling off the tongue and I'm making it seem like it's not. Because the thing about waiting is, it's a period of pure joy. You're like, okay, I'm waiting, I'm here, I'm waiting, I'm preparing, I'm getting it ready. And you're in that stage. And then there's a moment where you're like, well, God, is it going to happen? That's when the enemy comes in, because he's going to test that faith that you say you have. And in the next moment, we're like, that faith is going to be tested. Then the enemy is going to come and say, is it really going to happen? Is he really heard it? Is he really going to do it? You've been waiting all this time and nothing's happened. Are you sure? And then you get into that place of disappointment, or start questioning if God will do it. And one thing that I'm learning just with reading the Bible, I keep talking about how we're reading the Bible from in chronological order for the rest of the year, reading the full Bible. And in these times, these people had, not the Israelites, but we talk about Moses, undeniable faith, right? Believing everything that God said. It was not a moment of question. It was a moment of just doing. Now, Moses did have a moment when he first started and he felt insecure about fulfilling this purpose. But once he's on his journey, he's believing in God for every single thing. And that is important, because that's the type of faith that we have to have in the wait. Because the wait is going to be tough. Because you are fighting for something that's going to change your life. You're fighting for something that's going to change generations. And not only that, but in the midst of that, you're building your faith. You're building your relationship with God. Because one thing about it is, once it happens, you're like, I know God did it. Now all of a sudden you on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook talking about what God did. But nobody talk about, all they put God through up until this point. How many times they questioned him up until this point. We never talk about that. We always talk about, oh yeah, God did it. And God does do it. I remember on my journey with God and waiting, it started small. It started with when I would be in college and I'm like, God, I'm doing horrible in this class. I needed this credit to graduate. I don't have no more time, and I need to pass this final because, your girl needs to graduate. And God, obviously in those type of moments, instantly, I would call my mom, pray for me. I need to pass this exam, and God would do it. So it started in these little small moments where you have faith, and then God answers. And, again, like I said about the parking lot, oh God, I need a spot. The mall is crowded, I need a spot. And you go there and somebody's backing up while you're walking and you're like, that's God. I know, because I just prayed about it. So it starts small and then it starts building up. And even the prayer of, oh God, remove these people from my life who's not supposed to be here. And God does that instantly. I don't know why that prayer, that prayer is always answered quickly. Everything else we have to wait for. But when we go and talk about, oh God, I'm dating somebody, or I got this friend group, if they're not for me, remove them. And now all of a sudden everything blew up. I'm like, oh, well, we answered that one quickly. So I'm like, it's important, I guess, about who we're surrounded by. But needless to say, it starts like that. So God starts testing our levels. He starts testing the patience of us, starts testing the faith of us while we are waiting. And then it gets bigger, right? Then you're like, oh, well, God, I'm waiting on a new car. I'm waiting on a house. What? In the midst of all of this, if God is giving you a form of transportation, you better act like it's the car that you've seen on that lot. If you are riding a scooter, you better act like it's a BMW. I'd envision it like none other, because that is faith, envisioning it what you want from God. If you are looking for a house and you're currently in an apartment, you better treat that apartment like it's your home, like you would do your house. Decorate it like you would your house. Pray in it like you would your house. Of course, don't invite everybody over now. But hey, that's just my prerogative. And that is important. So treat these things as though they were, okay? And that's what we should be doing in the waiting. If you're waiting for the opportunity again, like I said, prepare for it. And it's not easy. I'm telling you, for my own life. And a lot of things come to get us distracted, okay? Look out for these distractions. Limit the distractions, because they come in all forms. And as soon as you have your mind set on something and you're waiting for God and you're in the Holy of Holy, that's when the distraction comes, okay? So take that easy, okay? In this waiting period, let's wait in joy. Let's do it together. I gotta wait too. I can't go any faster than God. Because one thing about it is I can't go out here and do it myself. And that's where God comes in. Because if we can't do it ourselves, that means He has to do it. And when He has to do something, it's going to be done right. So it's okay for us to wait some time for it, because it's going to be worth it. I've never waited for something and then it turned out to be the opposite of what I've asked. No, actually, it's been exceedingly and abundantly more than what I've asked. Even in the waiting, we still have to wait. Wait patiently on God. Hold steadfast. Do not give up on your faith. If you have a moment of distress or disappointment, or you don't feel like it's going to happen, this is when the people around you are supposed to come and lift you up. They're supposed to come and encourage you in this season when you feel discouraged. They're supposed to pray for you throughout this. So make sure you're surrounded by people who can do that for you, because you should not be in this alone. We are fighting this fight together. So thank you guys for joining me today for episode 7. Meet me again for the next episode. Bye.